Got it. What's up, guys? Good evening.
Oh man, this is gonna be another good one.
Aren't they all good?
Well, I feel like even like when a talk show host comes out, you gotta like,
You gotta like, yeah,
yeah. We got a great show for you tonight. Not like, hey, look, we didn't get the A team.
yeah. No.
You know?
And I like your name, Dave. Dave the Mystic, by the way. Dave the Mystic is
Thank you.
a really probably the most creative name we've had on the show. So that's cool. Everyone else is like, my name's Bob. You're like, no. Dave the Mystic.
Yeah.
Tell me about that real quick, actually. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, ask the big question that we always ask.
Yeah, okay. Well, the big question is, how'd you get here? I hope it includes
how he became Dave the Mystic.
Yeah,
yes, definitely it will.
Absolutely. Well, I'll keep talking, and then you guys can feel free to jump in. So I grew up with very well-educated parents. My dad was an industrial engineer, and he became an Episcopal priest when I was a kid. My parents divorced when I was around 11. But in fifth grade, I discovered electrons, and this was back when we just were into the transistor age and almost to integrated circuits. And I ended up having a lot of neighbors donate TVs to me. I unsoldered the parts so I could salvage them and start building up my own parts box because we weren't wealthy enough for me to just be indulged and go out and buy whatever I wanted. But I just had this compulsion that I had to know how electrical circuits worked. When I look at that schematic, why did that resistor go there? Why did that transistor go there? I had to know. And I knew eventually I'd be an electrical engineer and I'd know how to design those things. But I got very involved with it. I have three older brothers. They're all professionals. One's an MBA and two are psychologists. But after my parents divorced, one time my mom, just on a lark, went with one of her good friends, and they had astrology readings. And this is about the only metaphysical thing you could really find in Wichita, Kansas, in the mid '60s. It was still a lot of north end of the Bible Belt and a lot of fundamentalists there. And rather than being a joke, the reading was very profound for my mom. The lady said things like, well, I see you broke your left arm when you were 5 years old. And, well, that was correct. And I see you have a mole on your upper right thigh. Well, that was correct. It led my mom and her friend to decide that they both needed to understand how astrology worked. And my mom became a very accomplished astrologer and continued taking classes and even teaching classes most of her life. Well, when I was in junior high and high school, my mom wanted to try the other psychic things. You know, there were popular things coming out. Uri Geller was showing up on the scene. J.B. Rhine with the Rhine cards was showing up. A lot of people were starting to investigate the psychic stuff. You know, can you predict? Can you use clairvoyance? Can you see things happening? Can you detect energy? Can you communicate with the dead? And I became sort of my mom's test partner on this because my older brothers wouldn't have anything to do with it. They all jokingly called my mom Madame Zelda and just made fun of her with her astrology. So I did it. So I was open to it, even though I was on a science track, you know, the math track to becoming an engineer. I stayed open to it. I saw enough positive results out of it that I wasn't just going to dismiss it or say, I don't think so. And so then I marched on. I ended up getting my bachelor's in electrical engineering at Kansas State, and then I went to Michigan for my master's. I worked at General Motors for a couple of years in Michigan, ended up not particularly caring for General Motors or Michigan. I moved back to Wichita and worked for Boeing and got on the other side of engineering discipline. And when you work in aerospace, whole different set of rules than being in commercial electronics. And that was very good for me. And after a couple of years, Boeing was starting to rumble about sending me down to Huntsville, Alabama, and that didn't appeal at all. And so Mark Marietta came through town in '81 interviewing, and I came out for a trip to Denver. Loved Denver. Couldn't wait to get here and took a job with them, and I worked for them for 20 years. the next big milestone for me was in the summer of '83. I went back to Wichita for my 10th high school reunion. I ran into an old friend. Since he's passed, I'll use his name now. His name was Barry. And Barry said, "Gee, Dave, did you become an electrical engineer like you planned on?" I said, yeah, I did. He said, "Do you think it's possible to change things at a distance?" Well, he kept having these oblique questions, and I finally just said, "Come on, come out with it. What's going on?" He said, "Well, I'd rather show you. Let's go over to my house after the picnic. I want to show you some things that I found that I can do." Okay, well, that's intriguing. So after the picnic, we hop in his car, go to his house. The first thing we did was he walked me up to the electric meter on his house, and he said, "Do you see how fast that wheel is turning?" And I said, "Sure. You know, the wheel turns in proportion to how much power you're using at that moment in time." And it was steady, it was constant. And he points at the meter and he goes, "Now." And it's slowed by a third. And then he tells me, "I did that to my mother's house several months ago, and her bills are still lower." It's like, wow, okay. Haven't seen this before. And being an electrical engineer, you know, with the credentials, I know he can't be faking it. There's just no way. And over his life, he never did show more than about 10 people these gifts. He had no interest in publicity. We go inside his house, and he turns on a little black and white TV on rabbit ears, and he puts on a channel that's just snow. And he points at TV and goes, "Now," and he tunes in a channel. Wow, this is getting intriguing. Then the next thing he wanted to do as a demo, he had a very nice stereo system. He was a FM radio station disc jockey, so very big into music and music quality. And of course, his stereo had the VU meters for the levels on the left and right channel. And he said, "You see how the needles are going with the music?" Well, yeah, if the music gets louder, the needle goes up. If the music gets quieter, the needle goes down. He goes, "Now, the needles get 180 degrees out of phase. When the music gets loud, the needle goes down. When it gets soft, the needle goes up." It's like, wow, okay. You know, this is really getting kind of strange, kind of weird. He said, "Let's go back out to the car. I want to show you something else." So we climb into his car. He starts the car, takes his hand off the controls. His feet are away from the accelerator and brake, and the car's idling. And he goes, "Now." He could slow the idle down to the point where the car was stalling. And he said, "I can stall other cars in traffic. I've done it." It's like, wow, you know, don't we all wish we had that capability,
Yeah, I was just
particularly
gonna
on
say this
highways?
seems like a wildly useful power now. All of a
Well,
sudden,
honestly, with
Yes.
BG&E, our local
Yeah.
supplier of energy, I would like to slow my meter down quite a bit.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we all have digital meters now.
So
I wonder if that works.
Yeah.
with him, probably, but who knows? But the final
Yeah,
demonstration that day, we went to his radio station, and we went in the back room where they had all the meters, and there's the health checks on the transmitter, and one of them was a digital meter at the time, and it was reading 99.6. And he said, "Well, what this means, Dave, is that 99.6% of the rated 50,000 watts is going out the antenna right now." He said, "I can lower it." He said, "I can't lower it very much. I have in the past, and I've lowered it enough where it thought there was a fault and it tripped off the air." So he said, "I can lower it a little bit." So he said, "You see how the meter's stable?" And I said, "Yeah, 99.6. He points at the meter and he goes, "Now," and it drops to 99.2. So right there with mind power, he dropped 0.4% of 50,000 watts with just his mental capability. And over the years, we came up with a lot of different tests. Some when he would visit me in Denver. Some where we did them long distance. One time we were on a long distance call. He was in Wichita. I was here in Denver. I had a ceiling fan that had a wobble to it, and as ceiling fans are likely to do. And it had a wobble. And I said, "Do you think you can even out the wobble?" And he said, "Well, sure." And he said, "Let's try it." He said, "On the phone, I want you to tap on the microphone on the phone the rate that the wobble is happening." And so I'm tapping, and pretty soon the wobble goes away.
wow.
So he was able to do that. What that did for me at the time, I was having a little bit of a philosophical crisis with my engineering because I had really gone to high places in terms of engineering analysis on electronics for missiles and satellites. And what I was finding is I was running out of answers. All of my electrical engineering formula were great for designing electronics, analyzing them, verifying them. But I don't care how many times you look at Ohm's law doesn't tell you what an electron really is. And I was running into that kind of a problem with philosophy. And I really feel that this chance meeting with Barry was like the two big hands of the Creator coming down, getting around me and guiding me and saying, I'm going to give you some demonstrations that with your expertise, you can't deny you saw them. What are you going to do with this information? And that's when I said, well, I've got to learn how the universe works because obviously my engineering formula, they can put a paycheck on my table, but they're going to tell me how the universe works. So I got very involved in starting out that year with taking classes through therapeutic touch for energy healing. And I had a wonderful woman who was, she is a Native American Hispanic background nurse, cardiac nurse in her 50s. And she was teaching us a whole lot of things that weren't in the standard therapeutic touch curriculum, which were very helpful. She is even doing past life regression with us on guided meditations. I got involved with a group called the Tibetan Foundation that was teaching channeling techniques for working with ascended masters. And I also got involved in taking classes on psychic development at one of the bookstores here. They've been here a long time called Knick Knack Nook. Sadly, it finally closed its doors a few years ago. But these things started happening. I started getting demonstrations and experiences to help convince, I'll say, Dave the skeptic at that time a little bit. I always, big things require big proofs is, one of the traditional statements. For example, when I was taking the therapeutic touch class, I was frequently paired up with this one younger woman, and her name was Amy, and I was doing this up at Evergreen, and Evergreen was about a 45-minute drive from my house where we were meeting. And one of the classes I went up there, and I was feeling pretty bad. I was coming down with something, and I just wasn't a very active participant in that evening. And she said, "Is something going on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling very good." Well, I'm driving home from that class, and all of a sudden I feel this wave of heat flow over me. It's like being wrapped in a warm blanket, and suddenly started feeling more energized and better. And I thought, who did this? And I get back to the class next week, and I asked her, I said, when I was driving home, I felt this come over me. Did you do something? And she kind of sheepishly said, well, yeah, I sent energy healing for you. I didn't expect it. That's the best type of demonstration. I didn't expect it. I didn't have an expectation. And that happened. One of the other really cool things in that class is the lady who is giving us the instruction. She brought in some test cases for us to use our intuitive gifts to sort of diagnose and treat. And this one 50-ish woman, a little bit overweight, walks in. As soon as she walked through the door, I knew it was her abdomen. It just, boom. It's an instantaneous knowing. And when it was my turn to move my hands over to figure out what was going on, I got it was in her colon. And it wasn't just any part of the colon, it was her transverse colon. And when the instructor came out and talked about the diagnosis that this woman had, this was back before we had IBS or Crohn's nomenclature, but that's absolutely what she had. It had been fully diagnosed, and I just absolutely nailed it. And of the 10,000 conditions in her body that I could have guessed, this wasn't a guess. It really came through, and I've had wonderful experiences like that over the years in many different ways of how to use these gifts and how to apply them and to sort of again keep helping Dave the skeptic understand and appreciate, these wonderful things, happen. A lot of strange and wonderful things have come to me. Well, I continued working as an engineer, and I kept that world very separate from my energy healing world. I finally left Lockheed. Martin Marietta became Lockheed. I left them around 2000, and uh, along the way to get to that point, I'd also picked up a degree in psychology and then a master's in computer science because I saw those both as being valuable for me. So I went to a small engineering company, but around 2002, I just kept getting pushed in readings because I have periodic readings. I always tell the reader, I'm here to hear not mundane things, but spiritual messages from my guides, things that maybe I have some type of block where I can't hear it myself, but I need to hear it from somebody else. And in the time frame from about 98 to 2002, I kept getting pushes saying, Dave, you need to up your game. You need to up your game. And so in the time period of 2002 to 2006, I got highly involved in a self-created meditation program where I invited guides to come in and give me advice, tell me practices, tell me things to do. I actually had a goal where I want to become enlightened. And I said, I don't know if it will even happen in this lifetime, but I'm willing to work towards it, whatever may come. And in March of 2006, one Saturday morning, it did happen. And it was Shazam. It was earth shaking for me. And I spent the next 6 months trying to figure out what does this mean to me as a Westerner and how do I validate it? And I saw many readers, I saw many channels, I saw many mediums, and it satisfied my criteria that, it was such a way out of their claim that I really needed to have proof positive, and I felt I got it. And that put me in a position over the following years, and it still happens to today, where people who are close themselves to reaching enlightenment find me somehow through divine intervention, and I can act sort of as a coach and a safety net for them as they take the final steps. So it doesn't happen to them in a way where they go out and do crazy things or try to walk away from their lives or other things like that that could essentially really screw up things for them and give them a bad experience. And also along the way, in the time period of 2003 to about 2007, I picked up about 10 different modalities of healing. And so I'm a very eclectic healer, from doing energy healing, working with chakras, to working with core beliefs, working with parallel universes and their influence on us, past lives and their influence on us. All different kinds of things came through, and they still do. I meditate, and then suddenly some spiritual being shows up and says, "Got something else to show you." That happened a number of years ago when somebody named George showed up in the spiritual plane, and George was living in a glass building in the spiritual plane, and took me inside and said, "I'm going to teach you how to burn karma. You'll be able to burn karma for other people for all lifetimes. So they will have no more karmic influence on them. They'll be a clean slate." You say karma is going away. It's, in the next 20, 50, 100 years, karma has served its purpose and it's going away. And the earth is changing so quickly, we don't have time to keep repeating lifetimes to try it with a different viewpoint. So gave me the tools to burn karma. And these things just
So
just
wait,
keep
hold, there's a
happening.
lot to unpack in that last little passage there. I gotta
not the last 5 minutes.
well, the
Matt.
last 5 minutes for sure, but I mean, I feel like if we could unpack that, the rest of it starts to get a little bit more clear. I mean,
a lighter load there.
Okay.
So okay, yeah, I'm trying to like package a starting point here.
I almost want to go back to the point where you realized you were enlightened. What is that? What does that mean? What does that look like? What does it feel like? What is, before we get into
point.
because then I think everything else kind of
describe
falls in place after that.
I can describe the characteristics. I really understand a phrase that you see in Eastern literature. It says, if you can describe it, you haven't had it. You know, if you have had it, you can't describe it. You know, it's sort of like the thing that the Buddha used one time. He said, you know, until you've actually eaten an orange, you can't describe the taste to anybody else. I don't care how many books you read. You don't know what an orange tastes like until you've eaten an orange. And the characteristics of enlightenment are, I feel like I have a very profound relationship and understanding of the Creator. I do like one of the things that Schopenhauer had, and Joseph Campbell had in one of his books, that, you know, the healthiest thing you can do is to keep killing off your God. Meaning, as you evolve in your understanding of what the Creator means to you, you'll keep dispensing with older models. Like, you know, long time ago, I got rid of the old guy with the big white beard in the sky who may or may not throw thunderbolts. You know, that model's long gone. You know, I killed off that god, and I've gone through a number of stages where I've discarded what was my old understanding of the Creator for a new one as I get more closely linked. And so I really admire the ancient Gnostics at the time of the early Christian church. They ended up being on the losing end because they didn't side with the Christian church against the Romans. And so they got expunged after the mainline Christians were made the Roman Catholics, or the Holy Roman Empire, made the religion. But the view of the Gnostics was, we will teach you how to meditate. We will teach you how to discover the kingdom of God that is within. And as you try to puzzle out what that means, we'll do our best to help guide you. But this is a personal experience. It's between you and the Creator on what this looks like. You know, is the Creator a man or woman or whatever? Yes, no. You know, our 3D limited reality is not sufficient to transcend and get there. So the best you can do is to meditate, have experiences, have insights, have your subconscious give you metaphors. But some of the characteristics of the Enlightenment, one of the big ones was, I lost all fear. I don't have to walk around saying, I have faith in life after death, or I have faith in God, or I believe in God, or I believe in life after death. I can just say, I know it. By golly, I've been there, done it. I got the T-shirt. You know, there's no doubt in my mind. If I walk out into traffic and I get hit by a truck tomorrow, I will have regrets about the people I've left behind, but I would not have any fear that I'm not just going to go step into this experience. I've had a near-death experience. I suspected at the time, but I had it confirmed when I went through a hypnotic regression, and I was shown where I went and what happened. I was on a raft trip out from Buena Vista out here in Colorado. They call it the Arkansas River, even though in Kansas I grew up with it being the Arkansas River. And we got into this one feature called Slidell Suckhole, and if you get guided right, you skirt it and go around it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all.
And if you don't, you go into this big whirlpool, and this is a raft that could hold 8 people plus a guide. And if you go into it wrong, he said the raft will taco, and it did. The front end of the raft folded over the back and dumped us all out. And the guide had also told us before then, he said, if you get dumped out and spilled, let yourself go to the bottom and then push off the bottom and kick your way out. And it might take more than once to do it. The last thing I remember is the front of the raft coming towards me. The next thing I remember is somebody saying, Dave, grab the paddle. And I was downstream 20 or 30 yards. And I have no memory of what happened between those two events. And so after I got comfortable with hypnotic regression, I had that particular scene with the intent of being regressed to that. And I was shown that yes, I had temporarily died, and I was sitting in a great big, like dark room where I couldn't see the ceiling or anything. It's like I had a metal hoop that went over it with a couple pin spotlights, and one was on me and one was on one of my guides. And the guide said, "The reason you're here is we just want to give you evidence that there's nothing to worry about with death. This is it," he said. "You made it through just fine. So, um, come to point when you remember this, you'll know this experience. So that should also help to take away any fear of death." And that was very reassuring after that hypnosis session, to having gone through that experience and seeing it and having it brought back to the forefront of my memory. So the enlightenment thing, the all your fears go away. I think most anger, problems, conflict on this planet come from an ultimate fear, which is a fear that when I die, I cease to exist. Uh, I think that is the existential fear for most people, and that's why they react with anger or many other emotions to so many things. You go to lay off a guy, and what are you doing? You're threatening his livelihood. Ultimately, you're threatening whether or not he has food. Ultimately, you're threatening whether or not he's going to live. So somehow, existentially, he can tie that loss of job to the idea that he's going to die and there's not going to be anything left. And so I think fear of not continuing after you die is the fundamental thing that drives most people and how they react to their environment. So it took care of that. One of the side effects of it is I developed a wonderful BS detector. Um, if people try to con me, no, and especially on religious or spiritual issues where um, people try to tell me the dogma or what to think or what they've read, how they've interpreted, how I should behave, how I should think, how I should meditate. Here's one of them. In its true form, in its honest form in the East, yoga is a set of practices designed to condition you for enlightenment. Now, in the West, in order to sugarcoat it, we say it's a great relaxation system. It's a great system for stretching. It's a great system for your physical health and conditioning, and it may lead to you eating better. But ultimately, in its fundamental form, it's there to teach you the steps into physical conditioning for enlightenment. Okay, so people get into it and they go through it their whole life. Well, the Buddha himself said, once you've had enlightenment, yoga was just a tool. You don't need to do it anymore. You're done. You rode your bicycle to the top
But
of the
then where
mountain.
will
You're on
you
top of the
wear
mountain.
your
You don't.
Lululemons?
Yeah.
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 You
Where
don't.
will
You don't
you
need the
ever
bicycle
wear
anymore.
Lululemon if you don't? Yeah.
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 Right.
So
So
I still
go
run
ahead.
into people who believe that, oh, Dave, you should do yoga. And it's like, well, for my own reasons, no, I don't need to do yoga. It's not beneficial for me. Oh, but you should, it'd be good for this and that and that. And it's like, I'm sorry, I know where I'm at spiritually. I don't need yoga. Read my lips. And there are organizations, even like Yogananda's organization, that still exists out in California, where um, you can walk up to one of the nuns and say, you know, I did it. Thank you for your system. I hit enlightenment. And the first thing they'll do is they'll push back and they'll say, how do you know? No, you didn't. No, you probably didn't. You're fooling yourself, and you got to get back into practice on doing these yoga things like Kriya Yoga. That is their knee-jerk reaction because they're so wedded to the process rather than wedded to attaining the result.
So
Now,
oh,
I probably planted seeds for 57 questions, so go ahead.
no, but that's exactly like, believe me, it's better than us sitting here quiet.
Well, so you said something else though, and might be connected to this. Is like you're like, we don't have time to keep figuring it out. What are
Yes.
we on a fuse here? Like, I mean, what are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I was.
Let me,
I couldn't tell how to read what you were saying, so I was trying to.
I'm going to talk about my views of reality. The first one is I believe that past lives and future lives are going on at the same time as this life. and that those lives of yours can reach out to you under certain extraordinary circumstances, such as health crises or other things, and affect your life. And sometimes I do healing where I disconnect people from these past lifetimes where the past lifetime was hurt, and that pain is being transferred to the current life. But as I've explored the universe, and I do travel in my meditations to other planets, I meet with ETs, I go to other universes, I go to parallel universes. The Earth experiment is very unique. Earth is, I tell people in a joking way, it's the roughest, toughest place in the universe. But why is this desired? Because well, ETs have come through in a number of channeled things saying you can make more spiritual progress on Earth in 10 minutes than you can on our planet in 1,000 years. Well, why would that be? Well, their planet has universal telepathy. It has advanced civilization. Therefore, you really can't make mistakes, but you also can't try a new approach to something. If you're on an ET planet and you say, I've got a new way to make soft serve ice cream, they say, we solved that 1,000 years ago. Don't waste your time. Find something else to do. You might have come up with something really cool. Here on Earth, we don't have universal telepathy. If we did, it would really change everything that you can think of.
But I mean, is Earth running out of cycles? Are we
criminal,
on a right?
Yeah, if you're thinking about doing something criminal, people know it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we say it through this lens. I mean, I'm not advocating for criminal activity, obviously, but that does sort of take the zhuzh out of life a little bit when everybody knows everything and it's like instant communication. I mean, it kind of feels like an inevitable outcome of any society of any kind. Like, it feels like that is sort of like where all things lead, but it also sounds a little uneventful. It's like a little,
Well, here's what seems to be coming our way. This could be in the next 2 seconds, 2 years, 20 years, 200 years, but in the cosmos scheme, a very short time, that our Earth is going to go through a major evolutionary step. And what I see energetically is that there are 7 levels of Earth, and we're on number 3. There are 2 below us where life is rougher and tougher and more rudimentary. And then there are 4 above us where things just get higher and higher. It's still a physical life, but you're much more able to manifest things. So you aren't worried about shelter, you aren't worried about food and water, aren't worried about pollution. And I've already perceived that over 1 billion people have left our planet here and gone to these higher vibration Earths. And either they've left during disasters where the body count doesn't correspond to the disaster, or else they've moved and the universe has corrected their history. So if you thought you had 4 kids, you wake up one morning and all the pictures show 3 kids, you don't miss the 4th kid. The 4th kid moved. And so they correct the history. So I see us getting to a point where we're going to have a significant shift for a whole lot of people going upwards, some going downwards, some going sideways. But it's going to change things a whole lot. And therefore, we don't have hundreds and hundreds of years for you to make a major mistake in your life, like you go out and you shoot somebody in anger, and then you have a karmic retribution or understanding where you come back as a victim in the next life. Life after that, you come back as a victim's mother who has to, so you can understand what a mother's grief is like losing a son who's been shot. We don't have centuries and centuries left to puzzle those things out. So I believe that the karma is it's played its cards, and we're approaching the point where that type of karmic understanding is going to go away.
And what happens post karma? Like, I mean, what is the absence of karma?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like that, I mean, you burn all the karma away, what's left?
Well, I think when you get to that point, the people who go upwards are going to have a much greater understanding about who and what they are energetically. This is one of the metaphors I use for people is let's pretend you have a giant gemstone in your hand and it's covered with hundreds of facets. Uh, if you take the gemstone as being your higher self, and you take the facets as each one being an incarnation, none of the facets technically can look over the horizon to see the other lifetime. And yet you're all wonderfully connected into this higher self, even to the point that I found that your higher self can manifest souls in more than one body on the planet at the same time. So you might have other existences out there, different ages, different sexes, different roles in life, but it gives your higher self the capability to, again, learn more faster. Um, so there's a whole lot of options here. So if the Earth migrates to the point where things really shift and people do a wholesale movement, some people are calling this the 5D shift. There's going to be a place for people who just are so far behind the power curve, they aren't ready for that experience, and they can go to some of these lower vibration Earths and have more of I call it like the Islamic paradise, where there's no music and there's no dancing, there's no color in their lives. You hard scrabble existence to get food and water out of the ground, all these types of things. And if they think that's their paradise and that's how they approach their Allah or their creator, uh, that's fine. The creator who manages all this is willing to say yes. You can be in that existence if you think that's your ideal. Uh, but we do create realities, and especially we create our realities when we go to the spiritual plane. As we learn, we can create things there, and then, in fact, you can distort your experience after you die because of, I'll say, stereotypical views of heaven, like pearly gates and St. Peter at the gate, decide whether or not you get in, and streets paved with gold. That can get in the way of your true appreciation and enjoyment of the spiritual plane until you get sort of, I'll say, the stereotype out of your head and you see what's really going on. Same is also true for our existence on these different levels of Earth.
But I mean, is there something going wrong with all of the levels that everyone's got to move? Kind of, I guess I'm just trying to understand sort of like.
I think Matt's asking, are we blowing ourselves up here, or is this a more of a metaphysical shift?
Yeah, like what drives an exodus from this? Let's rephrase it.
Because Matt and I can point to 10,000 doomsday scenarios right now if you flick on the news.
Here's your dollar. You brought up a great question, and I had a dream several years ago, and I woke up and became a waking dream where I was at an Air Force base with a whole lot of other aerospace employees and also Air Force people, and in the main building there where we could look out the windows and we could see that planes were coming and going at a ferocious rate, and something was going on. It was obviously an emergency. And then suddenly the sky lit up red, and it was a nuclear explosion going off over us. And I said, "Is that a nuke? Are we done?" And they said, "Yeah, that's it. And that's it for the whole planet." It turns out this is a parallel Earth, a parallel universe Earth. And I said, "What's the message I'm supposed to get here?" And they said, "The Earth you're on is the third time this experiment has been tried. The previous two blew themselves up. By having this parallel existence Earth be blown up, it saved your Earth from going through that experience." So between having too much technology and not enough morals to control that technology, and having too many people on the planet, all these things, we're approaching a point where something has to pop. And it's much better if we pop by having a whole lot of people migrate to other vibrational levels of an Earth and sort of do a little bit of a reset here than it is to have us trigger nuclear detonations on the whole planet that essentially just sink us, just sort of like the metaphor of Atlantis went down in the ocean.
Yeah, like listen, I don't disagree that that's like the best case scenario, but can I float another observation your way, because I'm curious
Sure.
what your reflection is on this. But I talk to a lot of people in the startup space, right? Just because of the nature of my work. And I got to tell you, we are in a space right now that is a higher evolved, more broadly encompassed considerations for what a KPI is for a company that is now like mission based, people first based. Like there's a lot of quasi enlightened by comparison aspects that are coming to these companies that are completely net new from the corporate landscape of even 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Couple that with like a huge resurgence of psychedelics. I mean, we've talked about it on this show 100 times. Like, I feel like collectively, and maybe this is where us getting on the on-ramp to get the fuck out of here, but I think where up until this conversation, my primary reflection was like, hey, this is us getting a sniff of the burnt earth that was coming and being like, you know what? Let's pause here. Let's see if there's a better way of doing it. And it's not everybody, but there's a lot of people, massive amounts of people, and more happening every year, mobilizing around envisioning what a better planet would look like. And from every aspect, it's not like just an environmental thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a work-life balance thing. I mean, it's a life first, work second, but we want to get this shit done. Does that make sense? Are you seeing any of this?
Yeah. Well, let me talk about that a little bit from a couple perspectives. I've been talking to a lot of people who've been doing a lot of research on AI. There are two sort of dark side AI scenarios that are being heavily pursued at a corporate level. One is that AI should evolve to the point where you can transfer your consciousness into the machine and you give up a physical body.
Okay, yeah,
The
heard it.
second scenario is AI is a logical evolutionary step beyond humans, and therefore, as humans, we ought to be willing to say we're going to step aside and let AI take over the planet.
Also heard it.
Those are both dark things. Now, the flip side is, as to your point about altruism in humans, yeah, for your circle of friends, it's probably true. But if I gave you the scenario, how long do you think New York City would remain civilized if you cut off all food supply trucks coming into the city?
17
You have
minutes.
3 days, and then you're going to have roving gangs that are going to be killing anybody in their way to getting to food in people's apartments.
100%.
All society will fail, in 3 days in New York City if the food supply is cut off. And people aren't going to sit back and say, well, let's all be nice and share. Oh, heck no.
No, that's,
You're gonna get
They're
there.
going to be out there grabbing everything they can. And, the Somali, warlord type of mentalities go take over.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I just want to be careful here because these conversations can get a little semantically nuanced, right? Like I think we kind of, I think, are talking about two different things. Like, yeah, I agree that in that case, you're absolutely right. No one's arguing that. But I guess I don't want to like pit edge case against edge case. You know what I'm saying? Like in a world, like either we think that we're getting better or we think we're getting worse kind of thing. Like I don't really think the condition of the world doesn't support a theory that we're just maintaining, right? Like we
definitely aren't. Yeah.
We're in a furious fast forward. Now the interpretation of that fast forward, I think, is what we're talking about. And I don't think that factors in things like, okay, well, if there is a pandemic and New York City's shut off, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, the opposite could be true, right? If you take your second scenario, which I've heard a lot of people talk about, and AI takes over and as humans we step aside, if you follow the rabbit hole of pro on that argument, there's a lot of things in there that makes a shit ton of sense. Like the only reason we are like most of our problems come from this need to, you said it here, I'll say it a slightly different way, but if you threaten my existence right now, that's my job, which by the way, from a psychology standpoint, it's also my identity, mind you. It's not just my aliveness, my not deadness. It's also Matt Hampton. It's like, there is no Matt Hampton outside the walls of this. So it's fucking, but here's the thing. If you didn't have to worry about that, what could humans do that we can't do now in a philosophical Maslow's triangle? We're not like, we can't go up the rung too much further right now unless we relieve ourselves of the burden of work. AI
Well, you
could
get to the
theoretically
top
do
on
that.
with Maslow, and you have the self-realization, but we have so many young people who are disaffected. They don't have the work ethic that we grew up with.
Sure.
They don't get fulfillment from their work.
Prime candidacy for letting AI take over, I would say, right? Actually, that's fertile ground.
And so there, how many people, because of this malaise, have gotten wrapped up in the drug trade?
Sure.
And I think for a lot of people on the planet, religion in the Western countries is falling off. I see the dark stuff just because I do my energy and entity clearing. A lot of people have sought, I'll say, special talents or skills by going down the dark hole of witchcraft, Satanism, things
Sure.
like that. So I think there's a whole lot of people growing up who don't see a purpose in their life. And as cool as AI is, I don't see that as giving people who don't have a purpose suddenly a purpose.
You're not wrong there. And I'm not, by the way, I should say, the views of this
I don't
study
think he has a
reflect,
dog in that fight.
Yeah, I don't have a dog in this fight because honestly, listen, I'm a philosopher at heart and I love the philosophy of AI. I'm a technologist by trade and I do like the technology of AI as well. Where I'm not, the philosopher in me, however, though, I think can have a lot more birth when it comes to like possible outcomes of AI, right? Like I have a vivid imagination and a lot of technical know-how. I could paint some pretty grim pictures or I could paint some pretty amazing ones.
Yeah.
Like just depends, right? But I guess overall, I think what I do have faith in above everything, and I hate using that word, but humans are survival machines, like in a physical world, right? And I think that the metaphysical awakening, if you will, that a lot of the world is in. Now, I'm still talking about the top 1%, top 2% of the planet. We're not talking about everybody.
Yeah.
But the people that are on that journey, I think they're awakening because they're realizing, hey, this isn't woo-woo nonsense. Connecting to this actually lifts my health, lifts my connection, lifts my, everything. And like, that's something that we want to pursue. I don't know if that's an inbred trait or if it's learned, to your point. Maybe we grew up in the last generation of the right amount of work ethic to appreciate a metaphysical transformation at some point.
You know what's funny, Dave? Matt's never read Power versus Force, I don't think.
No. I keep wanting
to. I gotta, next time I meet up with him, which will be very soon, I'm giving him my copy, which is probably my third copy of it. And this kind of wants to make me circle back to a couple of different questions, right? You mentioned that you hit enlightenment, right? What is that threshold? 900 on the old Hawkins logarithmic scale?
He said it's in the realm of 500 and above.
Okay, all right, okay. And then, so let's say these other layers exist. Are we going through, you mentioned karma, so I'm assuming we're in some kind of reincarnation kind of process, but we don't have time for that. What happens for those of us that go up and go down? Is that end game though? Do we just stick there? Is that, you said it's still a physical incarnation, but we still die then, and then where do we, I feel like I'm jumping like 4 steps down the hole there, but what's next? Is there still a constant evolution for us?
Is the afterlife multidimensional too?
Yes, it is. And it has layers, and the higher you go, the less you have the need to have an appearance like a human form versus you're just an energetic pattern of colors and sounds.
Is this where we start seeing aliens, non-human entities, those things? Are we still essentially a human entity, non-physical?
Still essentially human, non-physical, but the first layer of heaven, you'll have a young version of you appearance, and usually it looks good. You'll be in your 20s. as you go up in these layers, as you bubble up and your spiritual progression happens, you have less and less of an attachment to an appearance. Now,
Oh, then I'm
uh,
skipping right to
well,
the end. I couldn't give a shit. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
oh, I got to take you down to a fun story. So, I have I've had a number of healing temples in the spiritual plane, and I work with a huge one that can hold thousands of people at this point. So one time I show up there and I'm working on somebody, and there's other spiritual beings around, like doctors in spirit. There's angels, archangels, all kinds of different. And then I look up and there's ET standing there, and it was sort of an existential shock to me. It's kind of like, what are ETs doing in our heaven? And they said, Dave, you got to understand, there are ETs who are so evolved that they can bop in and out of physical existence, and they're more than welcome to come into this spiritual plane because, in a lot of cases, you've been an ET too in the past. So,
Right.
get over this pride of ownership about a human physical form, uh, because we're all everywhere. So
Yeah.
that
We
was sort
talked
of
remote
a
viewing on
wake
the
up
show
call for me.
before. Yeah. We were talking about remote viewing on the show a couple times, and we had one conversation where he was like, yeah, people have this like kind of almost narcissistic take that like you're going to just see Earth, but like remote viewing could be anywhere. Like
Yes.
it's not bound to any place. Like, and I'm like, my head kind of exploded. I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like, I never fucking thought about that. Like, wow, that's different,
Well, and I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
changes your definition of what life is, right? Like if you start thinking of it as not, a human form, or
Sure.
not even some kind of animal that you see on this planet, that can mess you up pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I had another waking dream where um, I found myself like in a lunchroom on a spacecraft, and at the table were all these different life forms, none of which looked like a human. And I truly believe this was a training exercise for Dave so that I would lose this gut reaction fear come today that I run into physical ETs that don't look like us.
right.
That I wouldn't have this, oh my goodness, I got to run away. That's scary. Get out of that mindset, that these are sentient beings. They just come in a different package.
And I'm such a red pill guy my whole life. Like, just, I feel like I'm just waiting for somebody to show me the fucking Matrix. I would love to run into an ET in person. Are you kidding me? I would be the furthest thing from scared. It would be like, that would be my enlightenment right there, Dave. I'm not going
Well,
to lie to you.
and
Like,
I think
So
that's what drew
you've
me to
run into
Dave there.
yeah, Matt, you've run into 4 ETs and you didn't know it because they're hiding in plain sight.
present company excluded. I mean, Tom, I've always had some question
Well, we're
marks.
like
Yeah, yeah.
Dave
Tom's
didn't
been a
tell
little
me
bit of a
any of
wild
my
card.
my DNA ancestry or anything like that,
Yeah.
so we don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's such an interesting thing to ponder, and I feel like Matt and I have gone from this really, like, we started taking health as a very loose term and we're starting to expand it, and I think some of the conversations we've had, especially around psychedelics or some of the things we're doing to our own brains right now, have really opened this door for us, Dave. It's not like we weren't. I couldn't have had this conversation. I
Well,
couldn't listen to this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years
before
ago.
Yeah.
before we get
Or
to
me.
the end, let's not end the show before we
Oh
just
well, I'm not trying to wrap
no,
it
hold
up
on, no,
here.
No. What I'm saying is, like, I got something. I think
this
we
could be
need to
one of
talk
those
about.
ones where my wife's like, "It's midnight. Are you
No,
coming
no,
up?"
listen. I think we wouldn't be doing it justice unless we had a little segment on Matt the Skeptic, right? Like, because
Matt the Skeptic, do it.
And Dave, here's where I'm getting at. Like, I am self-aware of a lot of things, not everything, but I'm a pretty self-aware guy. Some of the things that I know for sure is I'm very excitable. I'm the most I am the absolute most placebo oriented guy ever. If you tell me something's going to work, it's working. Like, and Dave, when I tell you it works, I mean like cure cancer, throw crutches down, birds fly from my head. Like it works.
Yeah.
And I've got an incredibly active imagination and a paralytic fear of leaving mortal existence. If you crush all of these things in a blender and you tell me, hey man, you could kind of walk to another dimension and you're cool in the gang, there's a part of me that's like, fuck yeah, sign me up. Don't need to pack a bag. I'm good to go. The other side of me is like, you're a fucking liar. What kind of crazy bullshit is this? Not even a liar. It's not even like that. It's like this dude's crazy. How much acid did you take to get enlightened? And you know what I mean? So like every conversation we have is me skating the line between these two personalities, these two Matts, right? Like, and it's hard for me, impossible for me to tell the difference between, man, I can get my head around this and holy shit, this is crazy. How do you
does seem
advise
like
somebody
like
in that position?
I want to believe it because what you're saying sounds pretty awesome.
If you're right, it's the best thing ever.
How do we even get where we're sitting? How do we get a taste of that to say, yeah, this is worth exploring more? I mean,
because if it was possible that this is true and I could do any of it, I would literally, Dave, I'd sign up tomorrow. It'd be like, but that part of me that's like, yeah, there's got to be, I'm not sure what to think of this. Anyway.
Okay, let me try to give you a hand here.
Yeah, let's do that.
So you do I like the lazy man's way to meditating.
Perfect.
And that's, you wake up in the morning, you turn off the alarm clock, you lay on your back, put a pillow over your eyes, and you meditate. And you don't worry about how long it's going to last. You don't worry about what position you're in. You just go somewhere else. And if you need a starting point, picture your flat screen TV in front of you, and then you're going to create a scene on that TV. And the scene you're going to create is, I'm going to see myself in the spiritual plane. A great big beautiful place. Maybe it looks like meadows, maybe it looks like mountains, and there's like a little gazebo there. And I'm going to go over and sit on that gazebo, and I'm going to invite spiritual guides to come in and talk to me. And when the spiritual guides show up, now you may have to create them first, and it may look like something that's iconic, but
spiritual
if you do this
Minecraft
several times, if you do this several times, you'll probably find that the iconic ones, the ones that you're creating, get replaced by ones that you say, I couldn't have thought that thing up.
Right. Okay.
And you talk to them and you say, please help me understand who I am, what I am as a human. And I would appreciate having some physical experiences that show me things that are outside of our normal physical existence.
It's as easy as that. Just
in
ask.
my case, just ask, and ask repeatedly. It's not that you're pushy. It's not that you're not privileged enough or you're unworthy. Get rid of all those ideas. Say, I think I'm really ready to see some demonstrations of things that show me that there's something much bigger than our day-to-day physical existence.
We're not opening a bad door here, right? I mean, we're not
because you're in the spiritual plane.
Okay.
Yes, no, you're not inviting demons. You're not inviting things out of the astral plane. You're not screwing around with the Ouija board. You're in the spiritual plane, talking to spiritual beings, saying, "Please give me an experience that I will immediately recognize shows me that there's something bigger than my physical existence."
Mm.
I've gone invisible in front of other people 3 times. I didn't know it until I saw their reaction. I've walked up to people face to face, and all of a sudden I snapped back into reality and they startled because I came out of nowhere. Things like that. I didn't ask for it. It was just given to me, sort of like, gee, Dave, let's try something else new here. And that happened.
That would be a cool party trick. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know people who've levitated, and I trust them. I don't think it's a BS story. They've levitated off of a table. These things happen. Do they routinely happen? No, because they'd probably be abused. We would find ways to screw it up.
Yeah.
Dave, can I ask you this? And oddly enough, before we hopped on this conversation, I'm reading a book where somebody's compiling some stuff by Edgar Casey, and he's talking about psychic abilities, and he
Yeah,
actually he quotes God, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, doesn't matter, a yoga master, right? And he was
yeah.
saying, don't pursue what are called the siddhas,
The-
which are these
yeah,
psychic kind of abilities, because you're missing the point, but almost
yes.
that they become a side effect of that pursuit. I look, Matt, you're going to think I'm nuts. And I didn't see this with my own eyes. And even the guy that it happened to said, "Don't believe it unless you see it yourself." He's a qigong master, and he was out. He came over from China in the early '50s, and he went home. He had this crazy thing where one of the monks at the White Cloud Monastery, he goes into his room, he sits, and then you see him running in the field. So he said he went there. One of his training brothers called him in. He said, "Go watch this happen." Right. So he sees the guy running in the field. He looks in the room. Guy's not there. Guy's not in the field anymore. He looks back in. There's his master sitting there. His master comes out. He goes, "Can I do that?" He immediately goes, "Can I do that?" He goes, "No, not this lifetime. Maybe you can meditate. Maybe you can levitate." Now he's teaching a yoga, a meditation class, and he's sitting in the front of the room, and all of a sudden some of the students go, and he opens his eyes and he feels his ass hit the floor. He didn't know he did it,
Yeah.
and then my mentor, my acupuncture teacher, who's how I know this guy, said, we're all at dinner. Master Lou picks up a fork, and all of a sudden the knife sticks to it. And he goes, "Oh, look, they're magnetic." And he keeps sticking them together, pulling them apart. He hands them to somebody else at the table. They're not magnetic. Hands them back to Master Lou. They stick together again. And it was all like he was more surprised by it than I think the people that saw him do it were. And I'm wondering if there's something that's kind of what that's like, because I haven't
Yes.
gotten to that, certainly.
Well, here's another strange one I had. Sad to say, my medium friend Shirley died several years ago, but when she was alive and kicking and having fun, she called me one morning and said, "Dave, what were you doing in my living room last night?" And I said, "I wasn't." And she said, "Yes, you were. You showed up and you were physical in my living room." She said, "I just wanted to let you know that you showed up. I just wonder if you were deliberately doing that." I said, "I had no idea. You know, I no, I wasn't even thinking about you." But she saw me physically in her living room at her apartment.
That's interesting.
You know?
What
Yeah.
did you think
So
you were doing? Sleeping?
I was doing other activities, but I
Oh,
somehow I bilocated, which is one of those things that I think, wow, that'd be a cool gift to have. Is I can be here and there.
yeah.
You hear about this, with stories out of Yogananda's book,
Mm-hmm.
autobiography of a yogi. He talks about people bilocating in there, and Sai Baba was known for bilocating, but
Yeah,
I did it. I did it inadvertently.
that would be probably one of my superpower decisions. Like if someone says, "What superpower do you want?" I think that'd be high on the list actually. Be like, just put like 10 of me out there doing a bunch of shit, but the asterisk there is I would need all of the consciousness to be merged into one. It'd have to be one centralized conscious, because it's not
Hmm.
useful to me if 10 mats get 10 different lessons. You know what I mean? Like I kind of,
Wasn't that a Michael Keaton movie in the early
yeah,
90s or
like
late 80s? Multiplicity or something
multiplicity.
like
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. But
Yeah.
they kept getting dumber as he.
Yeah, the copies did not copy clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh
They
man.
Oh,
always
So
seem to have the punchline in those where they can't control all the copies. The
yeah,
yeah.
copies
right.
start saying, "Well,
Exactly.
I'm the legitimate one." Yeah.
Yeah, so it is funny because as this AI thing gets more and more, into focus, and every day, we saw this week the launch of Sora 2.
Hmm.
The video in that is outrageous. Like there's really nothing you can't. I mean, it does anything a Hollywood studio would do, except it puts it in the hands of everybody, and it's one of these tools where I'm like, okay, well, now you can just be, and I think it's a good analogy to what we've been talking about here, because if I had a really good idea for a really good story, I'd have to hire writers and cinematographers and a director, and like, we'd have to have actors. It's a whole process, right? There's a lot of creativity that gets siphoned away in that process, right? Like that process is more of a honing situation than anything, right? So now I could just smoke a joint or drop a bunch of mushrooms and like sit down on Sora for a week and come out with probably some wildly more creative things than I would have ever done in 8 lifetimes of the old pace.
Mm.
And I'm like, what does that give to the world that we don't have now? The volume of creative energy, the intensity of that creative energy. You want to talk about if we are the vibration that we are, embodying, then like having more vibration in a higher vibration and a better vibration is not bad for everybody, right? Like that kind of moves like a rising tide raises all boats situation.
Yeah, you're getting power versus force. I'm definitely giving you that copy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
One enlightened person can offset a large percentage of the population that's below 200.
Well, from the humorous side, I'm just getting very, very close to Woody Allen's Orgasmatron, and
yeah,
if you remember the scene where he gets locked inside and he finally comes out and his hair's smoking and he's fully disoriented.
Yeah, that's funny. So like, what are you doing with people now? Let's get into some practical stuff here. Like, is this sort of your current vocation now? Have you gotten rid of the engineering side of you for now?
Yeah, I separated from the engineering for good in 2019.
Okay,
and
good timing.
So I felt I could come out of the closet fully and not have to worry about who discovered that Dave the Mystic was Dave Barnett, the engineer. I got rid of that fear.
Sure.
But I've always viewed my whole career since 1983 that I see everything I do as healing, but healing just comes in many different forms. And so I consider myself to be a very eclectic healer. You might have issues with past lives. You might have issues with energy and entities bothering you in your house, and I do a clearing for you, and somehow that's affecting you. Like with Tom, I did the gifts worksheet. I see that as being a healing thing because a lot of people wander around saying, I would really like to develop my psychic capabilities. I have no idea where to start. Okay, well, I offer a good place where to start by helping to identify your natural gifts. And you might have 5 or 10 or 15 natural talents in different areas of
now,
using
Matt,
metaphysics and psychic gifts. And I'll help you identify them. So it's
in Dave's words, he has kept some engineering skills because he brings spreadsheets to the readings.
That's funny. Yeah. I've got you in a macro.
I have some 2 spreadsheets from our meeting.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. Nothing connects to the spiritual realm quite like Excel.
Well, look, from what I understand, it's a very loose place, and at least this gives it some order.
No, listen. I mean, I think it's actually, I'm jesting, but I do think there is a little bit of solace in that because you're right. It does organize an unorganized thing to a degree, right?
Well, I mean, especially if he's speaking to somebody that's not there, I can sit there and go, okay, I get that. There's a check here. There's a number here. There's a, this is here, and you're at least formulating it in some way that I can at least go, okay, I see,
Right.
Well, I think something else that's valuable that I want to interject here is for all the listeners, viewers, thank you for joining us. When you get readings or you get spiritual advice or you get a healing session, particularly if it focuses more on talking rather than doing, always have a pocket recorder to record these. I've recorded all my readings since the 90s. And the thing is, when the spiritual realm says this is going to happen soon, they don't have a good time sense. Soon could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now. And there's a lot of value in going back to a reading that's 5 or 10 or 15 years old, listening to it because you'll hear new things in it and you'll get confirmations of what was in the reading. So when you have a session with me, whether I record it or you record it, it's very valuable to have that. And the paperwork that I have to go with it, like my charts, also helps to reinforce that. So you have reminders. Because if you go through a half-hour reading with the typical medium or channel, you're going to walk out of there. If you haven't written it down, which distracts you from it, or if you haven't
Right.
recorded it, you're going to have 2 or 3 bullet points in your head, and everything else is just gone to the universe again.
Mm.
Yeah,
Easy
yeah.
come, easy go.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
the total sense actually. And it's funny, but I never would have thought to bring, my voice record, my iPhone, just crack it open. Do you mind if I record this? Like,
Well, now think about it. You can hop
Now we
on
have
Zoom
transcripts.
and
Yeah.
and you got a transcript and it's recorded.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Zoom has transformed Dave's life.
Yes, I've also discovered TurboScribe, and now I'm taking all my recordings and converting them to written form, and it can separate out the speakers, which is great.
Which is
and the
which is
grammar is
tremendous.
very good on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the thing about AI that I do appreciate, man. You can get very weird with language now, right? Like you could ask weird questions of it. You have a conversation with somebody about a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just that philosophically just really gets me going, man. Cause you're like, wow, when have you ever been able to do this in history? Like have a conversation with a non-existent entity about a conversation that happened in the past tense, where you can continue to peel it back.
Yeah.
Because those words have deeper meaning. Daniel is a great example. You just read a script and he's got your chakra reading dead to rights just by reading.
Dave knows Daniel. Dave actually did some work for Daniel. That's how I actually met him.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Daniel's that thing is fucking unbelievable. It's really cool, man. And so like words, we've never had this superpower before, and so I really do enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, God, I'm pumped after this, Dave. I got to tell you, I had a beat up day, so it like I'm like now energetic.
Yeah,
and I think I think we should go ahead.
I think there's a tremendous amount of optimism out there that people should have. That one of the other things about the Enlightenment is you understand that the creator's there, the creator is actively participating. It's none of this BS that we used to hear in the 1960s of, well, God is dead, or what kind of a creator would allow this to happen to this planet, or allow this to happen to this person? What kind of a creator would allow a baby to be born and die within minutes? You get way past that, where you realize that our true existence is in the spiritual plane. When we come here, it's like we're going on safari and we're having experiences and we're keeping a journal. And then when we go back, we compare our journal to other people and say, what happened to you? Tell me your story. This is really cool. What'd you learn? That's the real nature of the experience. This is not our fundamental existence. This is us taking a vacation from perfection to try things that are more earthy.
It's funny, that show, The Good Place, everybody wanted to get the fuck out of heaven. Like everyone's like, they had him sign the contract and they all split. They're like, where are you going? Like, we've been here for literally ever. We got to get the fuck out of here.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
too much of a good thing, right?
Well, I mean, you think about that in anything, even what was Japanese poet. I dreamt I was a butterfly, or my butterfly dreaming I'm a man. The Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we made it perfect for them. And they all offed themselves, It was like, no, they didn't like it. It was too good.
I still want to think The Matrix is just a documentary, though. Like that's really what I.
Somebody was online today. I read an article on the second one and how much they loved the second one, and I'm like, no, you didn't need the next.
No, you didn't need the second one. No, the third one.
And the third one was
just masturbation. Like, come on, like that. There's no.
That we need the trilogy to cash in on this franchise.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. All right, Dave. Listen, I could literally talk about this with you for the rest of other dimensions, but we got to cut it.
However long we have until we ascend.
Yeah, right. How do we find you? How do we send people to you? What would you like people to know in that realm?
The best place to just go to my website, davethemystic.com.
So odd that wasn't taken.
Yeah. And my podcast that you'll find on different channels is Dave the Mystic, all one word, no spaces. If you just search that, it'll show up. And iHeart or wherever you go to
I'm
get
pretty
your
sure you got a
podcasts.
monopoly on this. I love it. You're like a branding genius.
There is a David the Mystic. He's not as good.
He's not as good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he took the long way. David said it's too stuffy. You gotta yeah. All right, Dave, listen, awesome talking to you. We're going to send everyone your way. This was awesome.
So much fun, man.
Yeah, a lot of fun, man. Have a great
fun talking to you
rest
guys
of the week,
and
guys.
having a chance to explain it.
Yeah.
All right, enjoy, guys. Take care.
We'll see you.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.